more than an address, what I would like is to take advantage of this opportunity to throw some ideas on what we can do together as far as health policies in the region now and for the next few years. The main topics and priorities that we have in this group are the avian and influenza problems and related problems to those two pathologies. We have the HIV virus and use of information technologies in order to support our work in the region. However, I believe that there are two factors that may change what we will see in the near future as far as the reality. It's a changing reality in the region because of two factors that we used to consider only marginally in our analysis of the health situation in all of our countries. Number one is climate change. Climate change was regarded as something that probably was going to affect the next generation, and it was not something that was going to impact our lives during this generation. I think that view has changed substantially over the past few years, but it's an important factor that, together with a second factor, which is economic growth and development, is creating a new map of what I see as health problems in the region. I have introduced the term geopathology in the debate in this country as the geography of pathologies, because I think the geopathology of the world is changing as a result of the interaction of these two factors. Number one, climate change is impacting in Peru, for instance, vectors that produce diseases like malaria or dengue, I don't know the name in English for that, are used to live up to 800 meters over the sea level. Now, because of climate change in Peru, we have found that the habitat for these two vectors has increased, and now these vectors are living up to 1,200 meters over the sea level. So we have a new area at risk because of climate change, and that's a direct impact of what's going on. There are some other illnesses, diseases like Bartholinosis that originally only affected Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia, and that are posing a threat because of these climate changes and the economic development, the migration of people from one area to another because of working opportunities, new mining regions. Peru, as in China and India and Mexico, Malaysia, some of the countries that are increasing their mining operations, usually in areas that were not populated before, together interacting this force with the climate change are creating new problems. I have found, for instance, during one of my visits in a rural area far away from the main cities in this country, in Asillo, in the province of Sangaro, in Puno, usually when I visit these small health facilities, there is an area where we have the isolated patients. Normally what we have there is a tuberculosis case with a multi-drug resistant case, a difficult case, which is the typical isolated case in a small health center far away from everywhere. In this case, I asked about the patient I saw, and I was told he was an HIV patient, which was very rare, and it was the first time I was finding that, because he was even a non-Spanish speaking person. Living in a community, coming from a community up in the Andes, over 4,000 meters above the sea level. And when I asked how come somebody that is so isolated has gotten the virus, and the problem was that for 3 months during the year, for the past 2 or 3 years, he went to the jungle to work in a gold operation. And the jungle is an area in Madre de Dios where HIV virus is present. But because of that migration, during 3 months, now he had the virus, and he had developed the disease. And this worried me because Peru has a very good record in terms of HIV virus programs, as you may see over the next few days with the presentations we're going to have. We have like 70,000 people infected with the virus, about 8,000 people that are being treated totally free by the state. We even have developed a system for DNA typification, by which we have a tailor-made antiretroviral treatment for each case according to the DNA analysis. So in terms of HIV programs, we are very advanced. But all of a sudden I got this hit of this case that proved to me that migration, even internal migration and international migration, because of a global market, may generate new problems and new challenges for us. 2 days ago, I had been reported by our National Health Institute that there are 2 possible cases of Bartonellosis in Chile. They are sending us the samples to see whether or not this disease has expanded to Chile, but I wouldn't be surprised in Chile or Bolivia because the habitat for the vector is the same. There is no reason why the vector shouldn't be in Chile or in Bolivia, or for that case in Venezuela, in the Andes of Venezuela, but is a new threat. And again, climate change and economic development, growth, are changing the geography of pathologies in the whole world, and particularly in this region, because we are affected, particularly because of climate change, and we see that because of the disaster rate that we are facing in the region, but also because we are the fastest growing area in the world, and again that's changing the whole map of our reality. So I think I just wanted to share these views with you. It's things that I've been thinking over the past few months, but this should lead to action in a forum like this. We are taking action in avian and influenza threats. We are taking action in HIV. And there may be new challenges that we might want to face. And the response of using information technology is an intelligent response. Using GIS systems in order to have a risk follow-up in terms of epidemiology might be an interesting tool, especially exploring the possibilities of new habitats for vector-related diseases. There are certain opportunities. This is not the forum to discuss that, but let me throw them just as the good side of what we're seeing. When we talk about climate change, we talk about the glaciers being destroyed by climate change. We see how the habitat, because of the increase in temperature for these vectors, is growing. But at the same time, for the first time, we may say that the agricultural frontier is growing towards the top of the world, because as the weather is warmer in those areas, for the first time, we also face the opportunity to use some of that land with the adequate plants in order to produce some more food. The increase of prices in oil has taken land by assault all over the world, and we have we're having all throughout the world a difficult time with the prices of food, because of the scarcity of land to produce food. But this new land that we can gain for agriculture, it's not that we want it, but now that we have it because of climate change, I think we should look at it as an opportunity as well. Peru contributed to the world with many food products like potato, tomato, corn, all of the Americans. And in a situation that is very similar to what we're living now, which is the 18th century, when after the imperial expansion of the big powers in Europe, there was a sudden wealthiness in Europe that caused a high demand for food. And it was in that context of a rich Europe with not enough food that, for instance, potato became a foodstuff and a food product for every table in Europe. It was the crisis what took the world to introduce potato to everybody's table. I have the hope that Peru has many other products that were developed by our ancestors that have not been introduced to the rest of the world. And there are some other regions like China, India, Pakistan, that have a geography similar to the Peruvian, in some parts also Australia or New Zealand, that may be eventually subject of this, the introduction of these new products, new today, as potato was new in the 18th century in Europe, that are also an opportunity. It's not our main topic, but it is just to provide some good news, given the bad news that or in my view, that I shared with you before. But these are bad news if you don't act, if we act properly and jointly, because these two forces, climate change and economic growth, are not patrimony of any country. They are global, and they demand a global response. And given the region that is normally worse affected by climate change, and at the same time is the fastest growing region in the world, I think that we should be particularly interested in following these changes in geopathology and react and anticipate to what may happen in the near future. So welcome again to Peru. For those that are here for the first time, I'll repeat what I said the first time. You should take advantage of the good food we have here. Some of you have already tried. And take the time to get to know the city and our people. You are most welcome in Peru, and I hope this is a successful and fruitful meeting, and look forward to the conclusions at the end of this meeting. Thank you very much.